How messy are the peace deals and negotiations right now between the United States and Russia? I would say this messy.
ये सब बाथरूम का पानी है भाई, टॉयलेट का। वहाँ टॉयलेट यूज होता है, यहाँ पानी आया और इसमें किस तरीके से लोग
Yeah, that's pretty messy, and we could expect it to get that much messier as the situation around Pakrost definitely is getting very interesting for the Ukrainians and the Russians. All of this as China now looks more and more like our trade adversary, as there are some major moves made with rare earth minerals that a lot of people say could potentially make sure that Boeing is out of business. What's really going on here? What are the bigger trade implications? As of course, Russia now might provide a solution against China. How will that work? Well, let's discuss it here in the face of all the latest news breaking and developing right now from Europe and Asia, which I think is absolutely critically important to pay attention to. All of this as we had NATO's Chief Secretary, Rutte, come to Ukraine recently and describe how NATO and Europe has unwavering support for the Ukrainians. This as the Germans are wavering their support for the Ukrainians. Yes, you heard that correctly. This is according to ARD, as Mario Nafal puts out how the new Chancellor of Germany wants to arm Ukraine. As the defense minister says, maybe not, as the Europeans are like, do we have a welfare state or warfare state? They love their welfare, and America essentially subsidizes a lot of NATO, a lot of their military spending, and they're saying, why? As they're the biggest cheerleaders for war here that they don't have to pay for. We pay for it as the American taxpayer. That situation is changing dramatically, as now there are considerations about some advanced missile systems from Germany potentially being sent over to Ukraine here. Now, is that exactly what's going to be happening here? Again, it's being debated, it's being talked about here, but this unwavering support is wavering as, again, Europe is going to have a very difficult time with its constituents saying, you know what, no more welfare, no more open borders, no more paying for people to come in and replace you. We're not going to do all that. The left loves that. They love all of those policies a lot, and they have to now bargain. Are we going to have our profile pic for Ukraine? Are we going to have our refugee welcome flock here? What are we going to do here? Whoa, we don't know. As the NATO chief also described how the U.S.-led Ukrainian peace talks are not easy, as the Daily Mail reports that they have absolutely collapsed and failed. All of this as now we have new reports of Russian warplanes that were detected flying off the coast of America in what people are calling a terrifying escalation, as officials within the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, those guys that failed in 2001 to stop airplanes that were up in there. Anyway, they came out and they said Russian aircraft entered American and or, quote, Canadian airspace. Which one is it? Authorities did not name the type of Russian aircraft, how many flew close to the coast, nor what their purpose was. The Russian planes remained in international airspace, but reportedly crossed into the region named the Air Defense Identification Zone, which is beyond sovereign U.S. airspace. Now, what was going on here? All of this as the negotiations are still going on between the United States and Russia. Negotiations that, of course, we are getting reports from the United States Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who is saying that Putin is requesting that we have permanent peace here. Essentially saying, yeah, our first proposal was derailed right away. And again, as we reported to you, the way that it was being set up here, it provided a perfect opportunity for the Ukrainians to kind of rearm, re-engage, and to restart the conflict right after a ceasefire would have been, of course, violated here, which a lot of people were expecting. A lot of people were talking about, saying, hey, the way that all of this is being kind of shaped up here is something that the Russians would pretty much not say yes to. They said yes to one deal, and then that one deal, that one specific kind of rule was violated right away here. as the U.S. Special Envoy leader said that he discussed security protocols, NATO, Article 5 with Putin, as well as, quote, economic opportunities. That's a key part here, especially with what is happening with China right now, saying, quote, I believe that there's a possibility to reshape Russian-United States relationships through some very compelling commercial opportunities that I think could give great stability to the region, Witkoff said. Now, this is big here, as of course this is the third meeting between Witkoff and Vladimir Putin and his military generals, as a lot of people are growing impatient with the lack of any kind of momentum in negotiations here. But now there comes an opportunity with what just happened with China, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Because China is making some very bold moves. Some people are saying, well, China's coming out of this kind of trade deal with manipulating their stock market, manipulating sales, manipulating the purchases, manipulating also a very key component when it comes to rare earth minerals that Boeing is dependent on. Boeing is essentially one of the biggest military industrial complexes that I think has for far too long been given way too many contracts and doesn't really have a free market kind of incentive to provide any kind of really good kind of viable services at a good legitimate cost. That's my own perspective. I'll tell you why in a little bit here. But there's a correlation here between what China's doing and what Russia might be doing for the United States here in a little bit. Before telling you about that, we want to tell you about wearechange.shop, as we had to increase the price of our No More Drama from Your Mama bundle. We increased it for about $10. It's going to increase from here, as of course Mother's Day is very close here. If you look here, like, what's this little pink box here? This is our box that we send you that is the perfect thing. Look at this. We even have to and from Happy Mother's Day. You just put in your name. We just made this box as easy as we could for the guys out there. And whether you're dealing with your mom or your baby mama, look at this. We got roughly, look at that. There's even glitter on there, and we have our incredible products that usually are placed here in a little bit of a nicer way. We got eye rolls, we got magnesium mist, we got creatine, we got, of course, magnesium glycinate here in this really nice package that, of course, again, I hate having to do shopping for people. We just made it easy for you, so it's like, oh, yeah. Here's my mom. Here's my baby mama. I got to get him something. Give him the gift of health on wearechange.shop. As of course, this price of this bundle is going to be going up. Get it while supplies last, because we don't have a lot of them. I think we only have about like 50 of them left. And again, we saw that very quick here. And as I said last week, the bundle was just priced way too low. We didn't have too much of a profit margin there. So we increased our profit margin a little bit because we're selling very quick. The deal's really great still. And we're going to increase the price the closer we get to, of course, fully selling out of this particular product, because it's a great product. Just, again, quick and easy. Put your name on it. Here, mom. Here, baby mama. Here you go. Happy Mother's Day. You get the gift of health, and you get a partner. And this is strategic here, because I'm like, man, I want a wife, a baby mama that takes care of her health, that is relaxed, is calm, gets her sleep, gets her rest, doesn't create any kind of stress in my life, and is healthy. And that's why I was like, yo, you're gonna get some creatine, you're gonna get some magnesium glycinate, you're gonna get some really cool magnesium mist, you get your little pretty little eye roller thing, you get all of it. Easy, quick, simple for us dudes out there to have a healthy, happy wife or baby mama, whatever. It's new times. Lots of baby moms out there. And again, you don't have to do no research. We just made it very easy for you. Just get her this, boom. And bada bing, bada boom here. Now, let's get into the continued conversation that we were having here, since I think it's very important to have here, as there's a lot of trade war turbulence between China and the United States, as China, according to reports, has halted Boeing jet deliveries for airlines. Yep. This after, of course, we had a lot of retaliatory trade wars, as now we're getting reports, as Zero Hedge is reporting, that China quietly ordering all Chinese carriers to suspend future Boeing deliveries, according to Bloomberg, citing people familiar with the situation, as the move marks a broadening of non-tariff retaliation amid a deepening tit-for-tar trade war between the United States. And again, China ordering its airlines not to take further deliveries of this is big here. as these escalations, these targeted escalations, as Beijing also has specifically went after and targeted Hollywood, as the United States doesn't export much. We used to be a major exporting country. We're no longer a major exporting country at all here, as we depend on China for a lot of our cheap goods, a lot of our rare earth minerals, as well as China also. And I remember reporting on this early on. So do you know what? You guys want to do a trade war? Yeah, we'll just make sure, the key medium and heavy rare earth elements that you guys are dependent on for your U.S. national security at Boeing with your defense manufacturers and high-tech industries, we're just going to cut those off from you, which is a pretty significant deal here. As again, there's also going to be a reshuffling of the world order as the United States now, especially now with the onset. And again, Chinese are like, you fat American, you know what can factory. And they released, there was an AI video of fat Americans working at a factory. That's not how manufacturing is made anymore. Manufacturing is made through robotics. It's made with artificial intelligence. Now with the advent of technological advancements and quantum computing, manufacturing is all going to be done through robots. As we also are getting reports that the United States is going to start to be ready to produce the first ever made in America chip here. How will that be done? What will the product actually look like? Will it compare to the products that are made in Asia? As a lot of people are saying, well, just the workforce, just the levels of intelligence in Asia are higher. Therefore, they're able to make these computer chips in a lot more faster, efficient, and an easier way than allegedly the United States is. That's the talking point. Whether you believe it or not, we're going to see if that is true here or not here. As we have people online saying that the Boeing F-47 is the planned successor to the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor under the U.S. Next Generational Air Dominance Program. The F-47 depends heavily on rare earth minerals produced by China, which has placed restrictions on their export. Yep, and that's one reason, on many reasons, they're saying China just strangled Boeing. Now, fighter jets, I think, are archaic old tech that is irrelevant. I think we're looking at the conflict in Ukraine right now, and we're seeing drones. Again, Elon Musk brought up this point too. Why are we spending so much money on these advanced fighter jets with people in them, flying in them, when already there's drones that are fighting these manned aircraft, and the drones and the AI is defeating them in simulated war games and dogfights up in the air? Why are we heavily investing in something that has completely changed here? Why do we need a person in there when, of course, you could have a robot? And let's be honest here, robotics has definitely changed the landscape of modern warfare. And I think what we're going to be seeing is, now we're seeing medium-sized, small drones with payloads on them. I think what we're going to see, and this is already developed, is these bullet-sized drones that will, of course, be just flying around. Done. And done. That's the next level of warfare that's being developed, that's being war game, that's being practiced right now. That's absolutely terrifying because there's nowhere to freaking hide. Okay, we're talking about little bullets that could, little nanobots that have propulsion like kind of technology that could go underneath your door and then find you, take you out. That's the type of stuff that we are dealing with right now. As there's no more need. And if you look at SWAT teams, even here inside of the United States, all of it is just robotics. Lots of robots, dogs, humans, and we're very close towards a Terminator-like society if we're not already in one already. As we keep reading on here, I'm talking about how a lot of the categories of medium and heavy rare earths, including samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, lutetium, scandium, and yttrium. I wouldn't be surprised if that's all made up names. Are high temperature magnets that are needed for jet engines that need high temperature to maintain their quote magnetic qualities at very high temperatures, and then there's a description of all of these as reported by Newsweek here, as we have the leading import sources of these minerals to the United States here, and China and Canada are very big producers of them. But when it comes to, not just manufacturing, but producing them, China is the world leader when it comes to a lot of these rare earth element productions. Therefore, they're able to game the markets and the system here and have a bigger impact on our defense industry, which is in the hands of private contractors that have, in my opinion, abused their kind of no-bid contract system that they're able to price and it really kind of create a situation where the American taxpayer is just paying huge sums of money. And we saw this. We saw this with the war that's unfolding right now in Ukraine. The Russians are able to provide a lot of munitions, a lot of military hardware, a lot quicker, faster, cheaper, comparatively to NATO, the United States, and its military production. That seems like it has kind of a Western tax on it. Now, here comes the solution that I think is worth pointing out here, as of course this trade war between China and the United States probably is going to be made a lot worse. It needed to happen. It was going to happen eventually, as right now we have people within the Chinese government saying, "Let those U.S. peasants wail in front of a 5,000 year of Chinese civilization." As again, the trade wars, the slurs, the kind of taunting here, the AI meme videos here, and manufacturers saying, you could move around these tariffs by going to us directly. China coming out as the United States. Donald Trump is saying, "Hey, China's trying to screw us," and some media publications are like, "Yeah, China's trying to screw you, United States," with their alliance with Vietnam here. Now, here enters Russia. Russia came to the United States. They're seeing the situation unfold. They're saying, hey, the United States is desperate for rare earth minerals. They're trying to work out a deal with Ukraine in order to have American infrastructure in the region, in order to mine, in order to get these resources out of the earth here. And Ukraine's playing hardball with them. They're saying, no, we want security guarantees if we're going to give you our rare earth minerals. Russia's like, we'll give you the rare earth minerals. And I think this is what we are seeing discussed here by the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, that specifically is describing how there's going to be economic opportunities, commercial opportunities that will bring stability to the region. As, of course, they are probably saying, listen, let's make a deal here. Russia, you have a lot of rare earth minerals. We'll help you mine them. We'll give you some, but we're going to take the majority of them, and we're going to make some money here financially here, as the Russians are also in a very tough financial spot here as well, and it would be advantageous for them to get rid of the sanctions, to trade their energy on the world stage in a totally full way. And that, of course, would be very economically beneficial to them, since they are struggling financially with a lot of the restrictions that have been placed on their economy, on their citizens. As global trade would, of course, open up here, and, the world would get a lot of cheap oil, a lot of cheap energy out there. Now, the United States would want to say, you know what, we want stability, we want peace in the region, and we want to make sure that we get a rev share. We want to make sure that if we double down and we get all of these rare earth minerals and we kind of counter China here with this, that we're going to have some kind of benefit from this as well. That is probably the negotiations that are happening right now, as these negotiations probably will move the kind of marker towards peace closer. That's a good sign. Although the Russians are working on a major offensive inside of Ukraine here in order to have better negotiation leverage, the Ukrainians are fighting back here as much as they can here. There's so much fighting right now happening in Pokrovsk. So far, it looks like the Ukrainians are holding on to one of their key strategic cities that runs all the supply lines. But if Pokrovsk falls, and the Russians are doing their best to make sure that it falls, I would see the whole of the Donbass region fall for the Ukrainians. How will all of this unfold? What's going to be happening next year? We, of course, will be reporting on it as soon as it happens. Get the bundle. Make it easy for yourself. Get it before Mother's Day. Be responsible. Buy it right now. wearechange.shop. Stay tuned for more, all here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange. Love you guys.